Hey there, mudroomers. It is Carmen here with Mako, and today here we have a bunch of test tiles where we mixed and layered various other glazes with our Stoneware texture glazes in order to add color and create different combinations with these products. We get asked a lot if people can add mason stains or change the colors of our texture glazes since they just come in white and black. We have both of our mud crack glazes here and both of our magma glazes here. If you notice, these are our new labels and these are our old labels. They're kind of rotating out, just so you know. This is what all of our new labels are going to look like moving forward. So before I get into the thick of it, I'm just going to save whoever doesn't want to watch a test tile review video some time and just showcase what I found works to change the colors of our texture glazes. And then throughout here, all of these tests are going to showcase information about these products, but they might not always be ideal, especially if you're expecting it to just be like a purple mud crack or something of that nature. As some people may have found out, layering other products with the texture products are going to affect the texture outcome out of the kiln. So that's kind of like what this is showcasing here. I'll go over all of these in a little bit more detail, but first I'll just kind of showcase the things that I found to be the most reliable and most successful when it comes to the texture staying the same or staying consistent, as well as creating some color variation. So to start, we'll go over our magma glazes. I think this is the one that can be colored the best, particularly the light magma. The dark magma doesn't take color super well. So here I have one of our magma tests, and this is done by applying 2 coats of light magma, 1 heavy coat of our Stoneware gloss glaze, we used bright blue here, and then 2 more coats of magma. So you can see here we still have some texture happening. It's really, really nice. We do have a little bit of sheen to the texture, but it's still nice, dimensional, and cratered surface that has turned to be a bluish, and then we kind of get some pink hues that come out with our magma, with our light magma glaze sometimes, so that's showcased here. But as far as our light magma goes, Mako's recommendation for adding color would be to layer or to sandwich a gloss glaze in between. We have tried mixing mason stains in, as well as all the tests that you see here, and the mason stains tend to just fire out for some reason. I've not been able to get a stain to stick. It will create some like colored little edge line on it, but in the bulk of the texture, you're not going to see a color if you mix mason stains in with our magma glaze. And I did try the same test with the dark magma, as you may have expected. It didn't really change the color, but it did kind of affect the texture a little bit, but not negatively. We still have some cratering and everything like that. So with our light magma, this is the way that I would recommend to add color. And I actually have a couple more samples here with some other gloss glazes. We're putting these projects on our website. So we've got the red gloss here. Blue gloss again. This magma wasn't applied quite as heavy as the test tile or the blue gloss, honestly. The color's a little bit more subtle. And then here we've got our green, bright green. So that's our recommended way to add color to our light magma glaze. Again, I'll go over these and these once I go over this mud crack example. Here I've got them with Stoneware glazes, and here we're showcasing gloss glazes, underglazes, and stroke and coats. So that's kind of what we've got going on here. And then as far as our recommended mud crack coloring, I have not found a lot of success adding color to our white mud crack. Here I have, this one really definitely affects the texture, but applying the magma over top of our iron wash, you get this cool texture that kind of adds some brown in with the mud crack here. So that kind of works. The texture is affected, but I do think it looks pretty cool. And then when you apply the light magma over the dark magma, when you layer the white and black mud crack, they'll become this blue color. So you can get a nice cobalt blue by layering these two. But for the most part, anything's going to affect the texture really significantly. And as you might be able to see here, the mud crack kind of freaks out when it's applied underneath other glazes, which I thought was really interesting. I would think that another glaze would help the mud crack adhere, but it just pops right off. So layering these would probably be my best recommendation as far as maintaining your texture and adding another color option to the mud cracks. So that's the quick and dirty for what we found to be successful with all of these test tiles. We do have some interesting results here with our Stoneware glazes, so definitely kind of peek through to doing that to see what we have here. So I'll just go ahead and get right into it. The mud cracks, like I had said, if you apply another glaze over it, it seems to just pop right off of your piece. So I try to do a variety of samples here of different glazes. So I've got a breaking glaze, a really stable matte glaze. Like you can see, the mud crack just popped off. Here, the mud crack adhered a little bit better, but this glaze that has gloss and is moving, you completely lost the texture. This matte glaze, you do get a little bit of mud crack sort of on it, not super consistently, but it does showcase itself there. And then here we've got a crystal glaze and then a really mobile glaze. So here we've got satin patina and then blue hydrangea. So again, when you put something else over top of the mud crack, it just pops right off of the piece. And on the back here, you lose a lot of the texture when you're layering it. So this is enhancing mobility and the satin patina, and then this kind of just intermingles with the crystal glaze that we have here. And I don't think I mentioned these first two glazes, sorry. I have stone denim and lemon meringue. So that's the Stoneware glazes with the mud crack, and then we'll go over here with the magma. So as far as layering Stoneware glazes with the magma, I had a little bit more success with those. I didn't lose quite as much texture. The texture glaze did not pop off of the piece, which was really nice. So the stone denim here, it does eliminate some of the dimensional texture here, and then add some gloss, but we still do get some color added as well as maintaining some texture. So there is like a little bit glossy, rough texture here if that's something that you're seeking out. And then when you put the stone denim underneath it, you lose a lot more of the texture and have a lot more mobility. So that stone denim really helps the glaze kind of move down. And then here we've got our lemon meringue. So lemon meringue here, since it's a matte glaze, it doesn't have a lot of movement. You still maintain a lot of this texture really, really well here, both applying the lemon meringue over and applying the lemon meringue under. It doesn't affect the color very much though, so maybe a little bit here, but it's mostly kind of adjusting the texture a little bit. So here is where the combo is, and here it is by itself. So the craters get a little bit rougher, a little bit less consistent. It's really, really wild going on here. And then here we have the magma layered with satin patina. So we got satin patina over, so we lose a little bit of the texture, but I love this color and how it pairs with the pink and the magma. Kind of cool there. And then here we have satin patina under. We have a little bit of mobility and then kind of like random clumps of texture, which is super interesting. I really like how these two colors go together here. And then finally, the last stoneware glaze that we tested with our magma glazes, we have our blue hydrangea here. The blue hydrangea kind of smooths out a lot of the texture when you layer it over the magma glaze. It does affect the color a bit, but you're really, really losing a lot of that texture. And then here, you put the blue hydrangea under. You get some beautiful visual thing happening here, but not a lot of texture, but there is a bit of pinholing or orange peel sort of thing. So it's like the magma adds just enough texture to affect it, but not enough to seem like an intentional texture glaze. So that's what I did for the stoneware tests with our texture glazes. And then here I have some more tests where I layered, here we've got underglazes, here we've got stroke coat, and here we have our gloss glazes. So first we'll do our underglazes. What do we have here? Oh, this is magma, okay. So here we'll do our white mud crack under UG19. So this is a blue underglaze. Like the other tests, if you layer mud crack underneath something, it just pops off. So I don't recommend that. And then here we get some really interesting texture from layering the underglaze under the white mud crack. So typically we just recommend applying the mud crack directly onto your bisque piece, but you can add some underglaze and create some really cool effects. This has dimension to it here, which I think is really interesting. Of course, you wouldn't want it on a functional piece, but that could be a really cool texture to achieve there. And then when it comes to our stroke coats and our gloss glazes, we kind of lose a lot of the texture, basically. So again, the mud crack popped off like nobody's business when you put the mud crack underneath another glaze, and here we have mud crack over another glaze. So you get a really cool effect here with the stroke coat, and then here you do maintain some texture, but it does soften pretty significantly. As far as the light magma goes, when you layer it with our underglaze, you get this really cool papery result. I think that's super, super interesting. It kind of builds up as the coats build up. Here I've got 1 coat, 2 coat, and 3 coats of magma with just 2 coats of underglaze over the whole entire thing. So this is really interesting. I think it's pretty cool. Again, probably not a functional thing, but it's like dry, crumpled paper, which is super surprising. And then we put the underglaze under the light magma and didn't have much of an effect. Maybe at 1 coat when you get a little sandpapery, but for the most part it didn't really change the results that much. And kind of similar to our mud crack when you're layering these with our stroke coat and gloss glazes, you lose a lot of texture, you get some shine, and you do have some color change, but the main thing here is that we're losing a lot of that texture that we're kind of trying to preserve. So layering it underneath the gloss glaze or stroke coat is not going to have as much like that dry texture feel. And then here we have stroke coat and gloss underneath the light magma. So here again we're losing the texture. This maintains a little bit more but doesn't affect the color that much, which is kind of why here we settled on sandwiching it, so you can get that color and still have your texture. And then the results where we mixed the glazes together. So here's Stroke and Coat mixed with mud crack. Pretty much just smooths out. This is underglaze mixed with mud crack. I thought it was interesting that it did get glossy, probably from the mud crack. And then we have gloss with the mud crack. Completely no texture at all, just glossy, sort of transparent blue. Here we've got Stroke and Coat mixed with our light magma. Just not a lot of texture and it's glossy. Mixing the underglaze with the magma, that adds some nice color, but you are losing a lot of the texture. So this might be nice, perhaps building it up more than 3 coats would add more texture and still color it really well, because this is probably the best result we have color wise, but it's not quite as where I wanted it texture wise. It's still kind of sandpapery and not really cratery. And then here we have blue gloss mixed with our magma, and similar to the Stroke and Coat, it glosses up, flexes up, and you lose a lot of the texture. So there we have it, just a little overview of all of our test results. Hopefully that gives you a little bit more insight as to how these glazes perform when they're layered with other glazes. If you have any questions, or if you have a way that you like to add color to any of our texture glazes and have found success with, please let us know. I would love to try it out in our studio here at Mako. For anybody that made it through the whole video, thanks so much for sticking with us and nerding out a little bit with the performance of these products. It is really interesting to see even the tiles that aren't successful, because it helps you understand, have a more comprehensive understanding of how these products are going to perform, which gives you more insight as to how you can make them be successful in your own personal practice. So thanks so much for tuning in today, guys, and until next time, make it Mako.